Morning, everybody. Delayed start this morning. 8:46 in the morning. It's February 17th. Welcome to my channel. Over the weekend, kind of like you got Iran talks with USA. There's a lot of things going on with the Strait of Hormuz. Crude right now is up 1%. Other markets are still kind of like having some weakness here. All right. Last Friday was a very volatile session off the open. I was able to capitalize on a nice long for like a big time risk to reward. Um, Something like a 20 to 1 risk to reward basically on that trade. All right. We'll go over that maybe another day. I don't think I have time to do that today, but that was a really nice trade based on the volatility and the markets being overextended to the downside after a sweep of the overnight lows. That was pretty much a beautiful trade. I was pretty much done in, I don't know, a couple minutes. So those trades are always nice to have. All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile, bond profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Also use market internals, ICT, my weekly expected move indicator. All right, and that's why I give you every day. That's how we build my scenarios every morning. All right. Now, of course, I would love for you to join me every morning on time, of course. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, the market news, technical analysis, and then give you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I've made some changes to the Discord. I've been working on it all weekend. Like I said, weekly expected move indicators will now be updated by my bot. Gamma flip points will be given out as well in a gamma channel level, new gamma level channel. All right. So those will be now integrated into my updates in the mornings. Okay. So that's something that I've been working on, trying to get that all set up. So then, you guys can understand why I'm using the gamma. And in the gamma channel as well, there's a little description of the channel, exactly why gamma is used. Also, my expected move indicator. Also, why it's used. Okay, so you can see it right here. I'm just going to show you really quick in the gamma levels channel. It gives you a brief synopsis of what gamma exposure is, and then of course the weekly expected move also gives you why I use it right up top. All right, and then of course it's for Thinkorswim, and then you just download it. I shared with it with everybody this morning. Okay, and then of course the morning prep is what we go over once I get into more news and stuff. All right, so let's go right into the watch list here. Now it's a Tuesday morning, but it's kind of be treated like a Monday morning, right? Because we had yesterday, the markets were closed. So let's look at the VIX. The VIX is up to a 22. So expect a lot of volatility. Okay, expect a lot of volatility. When you get a trade that runs, it's going to run. Okay, but it also could whip you out. So be very careful. All right, crude's up 1%. Dollar is up almost 0.5%. 30-year bonds are being bought, which is 10 yields lower. Dow is down 0.25. Russell down 0.38. ES down 0.44. 10-year yield is down 0.49. And the 10-year yield is back almost under 4%. We'll see. NASDAQ down 0.90. Bitcoin's down 1.18%. Gold down over 2%. Ethereum down over 3%. And silver down over 4.5%. Mag 7. Today we have Netflix. Netflix is at 77, up 0.61. Berkshire Hathaway up 0.32. Eli Lilly up 0.19. Now, let's go to some heavyweights that are down. Nvidia down 1.13. Tesla's down 1.42. Well, that just changed. 1%, over 1%. Google's down over almost 1.5. Coinbase down 1.5. Broadcom's down 1.78%. AMD is down 1.84%. 1.84%. Okay, moving on to top sectors. Chevron and Exxon getting the love with crude. Over 0.5%. Qualcomm down over 0.5%. Oh, that just ripped down. GE Vernova down 0.5%, Oracle down 1.34, Palantir down 1.42, and the loser is the mining, NEMs. All right, moving on to sectors. Sectors, the leader is energy. That's no surprise. Up over 0.5%. Utilities up 0.39. Financials. This is all safety. This is all meaning a risk off market. Okay? This is a risk off. Utilities, energy, financials, real estate. Okay? Let's see here. Who's down here? Base materials, that's your metals. I got some metals in there. Down over 0.5%. Technology down over 0.5% at 0.62. And semis, the laggard today, down over 1.16%. So the tech continues to get money rotated out of it. Okay, that's the story. Okay, now moving on to the morning prep. Okay, we'll get into some other news here too. Economic calendar for today. We have the Empire State Manufacturing Index that already happened. NHB Housing Market Index at 10 a.m. And we could just see that the market's starting the week under pressure with tech and semiconductors lead the downside. We talked about this. Let's see here. Let's see. BHB Group stronger than expected profit with copper surpassing iron ore as primary contributor. And then we have peace talks, trilateral talks in Geneva regarding Ukraine-Russia deal involving Trump envoys, and as well as the Iran nuclear and stuff like that. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. I didn't give my bot some earnings recap this week. There's a couple. I think Home Depot this week. We'll get into that. I'll later. Here's the weekly expected move. Okay. So this is not going to get into play yet. All right. And then we have the breath readings. So these are always a good readings to go over for how much percentage of stocks in these certain readings are on buy signals. So the New York Stock Exchange is 62% on buy signals. That is not very weak. Okay. Now the S&P 500 is at 59% buy signals. That's very middling, right? NDX is a little less than 50, right? And then the then this is our breadth for the how many percentage of stocks in the S&P 500 over a simple day moving average, the 50-day moving average. Okay, 63%, middling, a little better than the middle, right? Then technology sector, I like to just solo that out. That's at 46. It matches the NDX, which makes sense, but this was at a 27 at one point. Okay. So the story, we are seeing distinct rotation out of growth tech and into energy and defensives to start the week, while broad market breadth and NYSE remains healthy. The Nasdaq and tech sector have both slipped into bearish territory. XLE is clear leader this morning at up 1.11%, while semis is the primary drag, down 1.13. Majors are currently holding within their weekly expected move ranges, but the tech flush is the key driver to watch at the open. Okay, that's what we got going with some of the news. Okay, in the economic calendar. This week, really, you got a bunch of Fed speaks, and then we got core PCE on Friday. So that's what we have for the week. Let's just get over to some other wrap-up news. Palo Alto stock dropped 0.8 ahead of a cybersecurity firm's latest results after the close. Okay, it lifted full-year revenue and profit forecast. General Mills stock fell 3.4 after the packaged food goods company cut annual core net sales and profit forecast. Norwegian Cruise Line stock jumped 7.5%. The Wall Street Journal reported activist investor Elliott has built more than a 10% stake in the cruise operator. Medtronic stock fell 3.7%. Warner Brothers stock jumped 2.9% after the entertainment giant rejected Paramount Skynet's latest $30 a share hostile takeover bid. Man, this thing is just not moving. Qualcomm stock fell 0.8% after the chipmaker stated a London lawsuit alleging it had abused its dominant position to force Apple and Samsung to pay inflated royalties. Shopify stock rose 0.1% after Truist Securities upgraded its stance. All right. Now, this looks like, it's a China holiday. That could cause, well, our VIX is up, but I think in a lower VIX environment, this could maybe have the market be a little quieter. Trump ad ambassador to credentialing at 2 o'clock. And then Trump participates in a policy meeting, but that's at 4 o'clock. Okay. Let's see if there's any other news I didn't cover. Let's say Wall Street futures inched lower as worries of artificial intelligence-driven disruption continue to worry investors as they return from a holiday. While corporate earnings remained on the radar, later in the day, markets will parse through comments from Fed Governor Michael Barr and San Francisco President Mary Daly. The focus this week will be the personal consumption expenditures report, which I just talked about. Okay, and then in currency market, that yen climbed on expectations that Prime Minister Sinai Takichi's expansionary fiscal policy will continue to give support. The dollar index inched up as markets awaited signals about the potential timing of rate cuts by Federal Reserve pressuring gold. Brent oil prices were little changed as investors braced for nuclear talks between Iran and U.S. in the trilateral U.S.-Ukraine-Russia peace talks, both taking place in Geneva. All right, that's going to wrap up that. All right, we're going to get right into the market internals, which are interesting. They were very interesting on Friday. Okay, they had a lot of inflows going in, money going into the markets. These were up to 2, 3 to 1s, the Valdez. Everything was green. Okay, everything was green. So you had, when you're moving up here, this is pretty good numbers. This was over 2,000, but then it degraded once it kind of couldn't go higher, and then you pulled back, which made the market unchanged. Okay, so the market was pretty strong. It just couldn't get through a couple supply zones. Okay, it's basically, it just had trouble. So that, but I caught that bounce right here. That was my trade basically. I saw this happen in futures, obviously, and it just, I got in. Originally, I got in here, but I literally had to tell, as soon as it went into profit, I went to break even because I knew it was volatile. But I got in back here, and I think I got out around here, 22-point winner or something like that. Okay, so that is your market internals. All right, now let's move on. Let's move on here. We're going to get right into daily charts. Now you can see basically at the end of the day, okay, it was a doji day. That means indecision. We did hit the 100-day moving average. We didn't hit last month's lows. Okay, the previous week we stayed within the previous week's range. You can see, well, you can't see that here because the weekly expected move, but the prior week's close, we were down. Okay, let's look let's look where we are now. 679.40. We are right at the 100-day moving average, at the lower third of Friday's range. All right, let's look at futures. Futures, you can see we're making lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower low. But we're at last month's lows. We hit them this morning, hit last week's lows as well. Your guess is as good as mine what this market is generally what it's going to do. Okay. Now it's looking like the market might want to test this low. I don't know. Okay. I do not know. So let's look at Qs. Qs, what do we have? Not exactly the doji, but similar, right? Similar. You see the market almost went up to the previous month's lows, but then it couldn't go any higher, right? Stayed within the previous week's range. Okay, where are we now? 697.40s. We are at the lower end of Friday's range. The lower end of Friday's range. Let's look at futures. Okay, so futures, remember, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower low. There's last week's lows. We just pierced it. Now, might be a little window. We just swept that liquidity. Now, I'm looking at it in my hourly charts. Okay, so, let's see. Let's see. Okay, because we swept it and we're back inside that range. Okay, we're getting pretty frothy. Let's look at this real quick. I'm just looking at the RSI real quick just to see. Not that I'm like Mr. RSI, but I just wanted to see how oversold it was. It's not that oversold yet. Okay, so we're going to move on to hourlies. And then what I'm going to do with you guys today is chart the NASDAQ. Just like I would in the mornings. I didn't have time. I was helping my daughter with something today. That's why I was a little delayed. So we're going to chart the NASDAQ together. So this is hourly charts. Okay. Let me just get the pen here. And you could see, I talked about this on last Friday morning, okay, that I didn't think the move was going to be to the downside last Friday. All right. I said, I don't know if that's really the right move. We were overextended. And look what happened. Right? We came down, and that was the sweep. As soon as we went inside the inside, that's where I got long and rode that puppy. All right. And then it looked like, look at that. The market ripped up, came up to this swing high, and that's exactly where it got rejected. Made an equal high here. And then it sold off. And then in the overnights on Sunday night, rose a little bit. Yesterday was a little garbage session. Now, back in the overnight session from last night, the market has gotten a little weaker. But look what we did. Okay, look what we did. This was the swing low from last Friday. This is the swing low from the overnight. We just swept it, and now look. Okay, now look, we just swept that. So if we're just closed here, the next move would probably be at least to here. Okay. So we're in a demand zone that's being held strong. This is last week's lows. You can see the orange. That's last month's lows as well. A lot of liquid there. A lot of liquid. Let's look at our, real quick, our 4-hour. 4-hour candles of doji. Daily candle. It's red, but you see the buying excess here. Okay. So today, what are we doing? We're making another range. Okay, we're making another range. Remember this range here. Right, and then broke out of that. Now guess what? We're making another balance range. Okay, so, do we remain in balance? I don't know. Okay, you never know. But we're in a balance area now. So this is our playground. This is our playground. So we could battle in here for a little bit. Now, what's important to note is the most traded price of the rolling week is 68.51 right here. That has moved lower. That, my friends, when you move the most traded price of the week lower from here to here, that's a little feather in the cap for the bears. And we are underneath that price. But I know we just got a sweep. Okay, so the next expected move would be to go higher now. Okay, maybe to right to here. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. So what do we have? New range formed. Swept the lows. Expected move I would like to see is probably to, like I said, the most traded price around 68.51s. Okay, that's what I would expect. Now, let's get rid of this. That doesn't belong there anymore. Okay, now we swept that swing low. That's a swing low from last Friday's lows. Like I said, I expect the market to go up to here, at least the 68.48s to 50s. Okay, moving on to NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ, I'm going to chart right in front of you guys, just like I would, when I get up in the morning around 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, now you can see we also just swept those lows. There's Friday's lows right there, right? But then we made a new swing low right here. We swept it. Now the next move should be up. Now I did do the swing lows, the raise. I did do those. Okay, I did do those. So that's not going to be needed to be done. Okay, now the only thing I will do is mark this overnight low. Probably could have did that in the ES as well. Right, let's look at the daily. Daily doesn't, the last 4 hours kind of bullish now. Okay, now this could get taken off. This is a bullish fair value gap. That's gone now. Okay, so you can see that I removed that. Now this demand zone still holding the market. You see that? That's what the power of the demand zone, right? So first thing I do is I go on my hourly chart and I do all these swing highs and swing lows. I want to see where liquid buy side and sell side liquidity is. Buy side's above, sell side to the downside. Okay, I always want to see that. Remember I said this poor structure has been taken care of. So like I said, this could go up to in the Nasdaq 24726s. That would probably be my next expected move would be there. And then to the where we go next, 24841s. Okay? But the first thing I do is I go to a 12 hour. Okay? I go to a 12 hour, and this is where it really gives me a feel of how garbage this market's been. Because there's not a lot to lean into here. Well, actually, I can make this, let's bring that down to a 12 hour. So remember, 12 hour, 8 hour, 6 hour are the thick supplies. Okay? There is actually right here a decent 12-hour supply, and there's right here. So we're going to mark that off. That is the most powerful one, is the 12 hour. So I'm going to mark that off right there. That goes right on my chart. 12 hour is the most powerful supply that I track. Okay? That starts at 24797 around. Okay? 24795, 24797. 12 hour supply zone. Okay? So, moving on to the 8 hour. That's what I do every morning before I talk to you guys. So I'm doing it in front of you now. Okay, 8 hour. Do I see anything? Do I see anything? No, I don't. All right, let's move on. 6 hour. Do I see anything at 6 hour? There is a 6 hour here, a little bit. Not the best looking, but it might be. I might have to chart it. So this is pretty heavy supply that I'm dealing with. So what this is telling me is I don't know about a long too much here, so we're going to track that one as well. And like I said, I could always change this. It's very discretionary when you're doing this, which ones you choose to do. That's a 6 hour now with a thick border. Okay, so there's a thick supply inside another thick supply. 6 hour and a 12 hour, that's pretty heavy supply. That's what that tells me right off the bat. All right, move down to the 4 hour. So that's pretty interesting that those thick supplies are back to back overlapping like that. It's pretty strong. Okay, move down to a 3 hour. And a lot of times, little ones will be inside other ones, right? So 3 hour, you can see right there, there's another 3 hour. So what I do with that is I'll make sure it's just a stacked a supply, I'm sorry, right there. And right there. And then what I do is I don't have a thick border for that because it's a 3 hour. So I'll put a regular supply there. It's thinner. It's thinner. Okay. So this is, like I'm saying, now that I know I got a thick supply zone, 6, a 12, a 3, this is a lot of heavy overhead supply. So it's like, wow, that's going to be tough to just go through. Okay. It's automatically what it tells me. 2 hour. Okay. 2 hour. Notice I don't have any demand zones here. Then we go down to a 90-minute. I don't really see, there's no demand. So let me go down to the hour. Then we finish. This is how I look at my charts throughout the day, through the hourly chart. So now you can see there is an hourly supply right in here as well. So there's just a lot of supply here. It's just a lot. So see, I'll mark this off. Okay, that I typically don't get that a lot. When you have two heavy supply zones, two little ones that are pretty important as well, right? And then you have no demand, but you have the demand from the past. Okay, so this is a lot to get through. Okay, the next thing I'd look at is our fair value gaps, right? And I don't like to chart a million of them, so I see one here. So we're gonna put this right there, right there. That's an hourly bearish fair value gap. Notice supply and bearish fair value gap are right there. They're being respected. They're being respected. There's another bearish fair value gap right here that's also being respected. Okay, that's a tough move to go higher in this market. Very tough. Okay, so now what I usually do is I save this. So I make sure all my levels are good, and now we're ready, right? Now in the past, I would do support and resist. I'd have lines everywhere. Everywhere. Lines, lines, some lines, and lines. I really don't need anything but the swing high, swing lows in my supply and demand. And then, of course, my most traded price of the month, most traded price of the week, right? And then you see my automatic weekly levels in orange and monthly levels. It's really all I need. Anchor VWAPs for the month and the week. That's it. All right, so now we're all charted up. We're all charted up for the NASDAQ and the ES. Okay? There you go. You just saw it right there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go to the market profile and volume profile now. Let's do that. And this is where you can clearly see the overnight session from the real-time trading hour session. Okay. That is not what I wanted to show you. There's the one. Okay. All right. Let's look at this together. All right. So this is the overnight. This is that little garbage real-time trading hour session from yesterday. The overnight. And then Friday. Okay. So what are we looking at here? Very important level right down here. Okay. Very important with demand. All right. So we're going to split this out. Okay. That's the overnight price action. They're just 30-minute bars. Okay. And we're going to start doing a scenario. Okay. Here's a ES. Let's do it. Okay. So right now, like I said, we have a sweep. Okay. We're going to get right into the first long scenario that I see. We swept. That is Friday's lows. Okay. That is Friday's lows. And then we had an overnight low as well right there. And we just swept both of them with that bar. Right at last week's lows. Now, you pushed up, right? Where? Into a bearish for value gap. Remember, I said there's a lot of overhead supply. Okay, so this is not easy. This is not easy. Okay, so that swing high around here to 68.47, the most traded price of the week, becomes the level that you really have to pay attention to. Right here. You really have to pay attention to. So, what am I going to look for? Well, we pulled back a little bit, right? He hit the week to day anchor view up. So what would I look for? I would look for some type of discount down here. And as long as that overnight low is secured and last week's lows, the 68.08s, and you get some kind of higher low, right? And then in a smaller time frame, maybe you see something that triggers a long, you take a long and you target the most traded price of the week, 68.50. Okay, and that's that swing high right here. Now that's the close. When is that, the close from Friday? Yeah, right here is like the close. Okay, and then you got tough sledding. You got literally got tough sledding here. Now you do have thin volume here, so you could push up here, right? There's a lot of supply. It's not going to be easy, but we're very volatile, very volatile. So you really have to take this out to see if you could really go and attack Friday's highs. Friday's highs does have a poor high, basically a double top. Okay, that just means longs have poor location. Okay, now could you get a bear trap? Yes. Okay, one more time. Let's say we push down, broke these lows, still in demand, but you would need to come back in here, and then that's also a long. Okay, so that's the longs that I'm looking at. Now, if we look at shorts, okay, a lot of heavy supply here. I talked about it that the most traded price of the week has shifted down, right? 68.50 kind of confirms that people are accepting lower prices. So this is just my marker. Oh, the most traded price of the week has moved lower. Okay. People are trading here and accepting prices. Okay. Now, what do I know? I know that we have last month's lows and last week's lows around here. Okay. Very liquid levels. Okay. We can't stay this down forever. All right. So, what do I got to look at here? I know there's a heavy supply here. So whatever we got to see, remember, we're starting a new balance area. We could come into here like this and go, okay, let's see what it does at the overnight highs. And let's say you just whoop, take that swing, but you close back inside, lower high, target 68.50s, and then see if you can roll over and take out the overnight lows. Okay? This environment doesn't look like to me that we're going to rip higher to all-time highs or rip that much lower. I think this is like in a flux, this market. I don't think it's all out, sell out, or sell off. All right. Now, again, something could come out news catalyst wise that I'm not aware of, but this is really the only play I'm going to look for. And it could happen up here, or it could actually happen here, the 65.11s. And then you take that long, sure, I don't know how much more you get from that. And it all depends how this market opens and with the market internals. I don't know. Okay. Now, we go to the NASDAQ. Here is the NASDAQ. Most traded price of the week has shifted lower. Let's open up the session. Now we also have the confirmed sweep. Remember, that was Friday's lows. This was the overnight low. This candle swept those levels. Like I said, I would expect to at least hit this swing high, 247.25s, and possibly go all the way up to this high, 248.42 is the overnight highs. That doesn't mean it has to happen. But generally, that's what happens. Okay, so we're going to get right into scenarios here. Okay, we're going to start with the long side. So what I want to see, we just took out that swing high, right? We just swept the lows. I want to see a discount inside this range, preferably maybe last week's lows. Hold that higher low. You go long. You look for that little swing high right here around the 24730s and see you got some poor structure here. Let's see if you can rip up and take out the overnight highs, 24842s. Maybe that's all you get. And remember, look at the heavy supply here. Remember, we charted it together. That is not easy to cut through. Phew, that is not easy. I will not be confident in longs in this area because it's probably going to be like, But if you take this all out, all that supply, you're home free. Poor structure, all here. I don't know what happens, but that's not easy unless we get some news catalyst. Remember, you can have a bear trap again, take out the overnight lows, hit this thick bordered major demand, and maybe you come back into range, higher low. That's a long as well. All right, shorts. Okay, shorts. Now you have a heavy supply here, like I said. So if you're like, hey, I only want to be short in this market, well, you wait for any kind of bounce into this heavy supply right at the 248s. This is so much heavy supply. Now, the market's going to struggle. Now, if the market is super strong, I would be hesitant on a short. But if the market's kind of like in parity, market internals, if I call it the WAD, the weighted AD, right? If that is like in the middle, when you wait for some type of rejection here to short to go target overnight lows. And then we might just be in balance. I mean, maybe. Do we take out all of this? Maybe. I don't know. To me, like I said, from my experience, do I feel that we're just going to fall out of the sky today? I don't think so. But again, I'll be there to trade it. I will be there to trade it. Okay? That's really it. Any struggle in here with internals that are like, be prepared for markets to have trouble. Okay? All right. That's it, folks, for me today. All right? Smash that like button if you enjoyed that analysis. That would mean a lot to me. Okay? As always, please join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert, give you the market story, the market news, economic calendar, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trades in areas of NASDAQ and ES futures. Okay? And the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay? If you want more in-depth coverage, please join me. Please join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Remember, you're getting some new stuff in my room. Expected move breaches, gamma flip points with explanations of why I use them. Okay? Feel free. Feel free. I should be live today as well. That's why I don't post a ton, because I'm talking nonstop in the room. We play some tunes in there. We have some fun in there. And I don't, usually steer anyone wrong. Okay? Even if I might take a trade that goes against my rules, I will still not steer you wrong. Okay? If anybody's a quant, if anybody's somebody who's a quant, and you want to look at me and go, wow, guy's nailing the market every day, maybe you can code something around of what I do, and good luck. That would be amazing. Okay? That would be amazing. All right? Now, everybody, hope you have a green day. Remember, no trade's a trade. All right? If I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you guys tomorrow.